Screening the biotechnology industry. In this case study, we'll demonstrate how Emporion X helps investors move from a broad industry screen to a much deeper understanding of insider trading activity. We'll begin by selecting the healthcare sector and the biotechnology industry, covering the 1-week period from July 19th through July 26th, 2026. Once the filters are applied, Emporion X immediately organizes every insider transaction reported during that week. Rather than reading dozens of individual SEC Form 4 filings, we can visualize the industry's insider activity with a single click using the 2D Insider Trading Top 20 ranking. A bird's-eye view of the industry. The ranking provides an immediate overview of where insiders are committing the most capital. 3 companies clearly stand out on the buying side: PBLS, ARTV, and ACOG. At the same time, several biotechnology companies show meaningful insider selling, with SRZN recording the largest net selling activity during the same period. This type of visualization allows investors to quickly identify both bullish and bearish insider sentiment across an entire industry before investigating individual companies. PBLS, the largest insider purchase. Let's begin with the largest purchase. Hovering over PBLS reveals that on July 20th, 2026, RA Capital Management LP, serving as both director and 10% owner, purchased approximately 244,593 shares at $28.29 per share. The total investment amounted to nearly $6.92 million, increasing the firm's ownership to more than 29 million shares. This immediately tells us that we're looking at a significant commitment from a major institutional insider, not simply a routine executive purchase. ARTV, a familiar buyer, appears again. Next, we examine the second largest purchase. Once again, the buyer is RA Capital Management LP. This time, the firm purchased approximately 264,586 shares of ARTV for approximately $2.58 million. At this point, something becomes interesting. The same sophisticated healthcare investment firm appears as the largest buyer in 2 different biotechnology companies during the same week. That raises an important question. Is this simply a coincidence, or are we beginning to see a broader investment strategy? ACOG, another institutional accumulation. The third largest purchase belongs to ACOG. Here, the buyer changes to Opali Management Inc., another well-known healthcare investment manager. On July 22nd, Opali purchased approximately 200,086 shares, investing approximately $1.57 million. Within just 1 week, we've identified multiple multi-million-dollar insider purchases made by experienced institutional healthcare investors. Already, this provides a much richer picture than simply looking at one company's insider transactions. Looking beyond 1 week, PBLS. But 1 week of activity doesn't tell the entire story. By searching for PBLS within Emporion X, we can immediately review the company's historical insider transactions. Here we see that the recent $6.9 million purchase wasn't the only insider activity. Earlier transactions also appear, including previous purchases by company insiders. Instead of evaluating a single filing in isolation, Emporion X allows investors to understand insider activity within its historical context. A long-term pattern at ARTV. The historical record becomes even more compelling when we examine ARTV. Rather than seeing only one large purchase, we now discover a long series of purchases by RA Capital Management LP. Looking back over previous months, RA Capital repeatedly accumulated shares, including purchases exceeding $7.6 million, $4.6 million, $1.4 million, and numerous additional transactions. Instead of a single event, we are observing what appears to be a sustained accumulation strategy. This is precisely the type of insight that can easily be overlooked when investors only review the latest SEC filing. Consistent accumulation at ACOG. A similar pattern appears when we examine ACOG. Rather than a one-time purchase, Opaleye management has steadily accumulated shares over many months. The transaction history reveals repeated purchases at different price levels as ownership gradually increased. Viewing these transactions together allows investors to recognize long-term conviction instead of isolated trading activity. This historical perspective is one of the key advantages of Emporion X's insider research platform. Turning discovery into research. In just a few minutes, we've gone from screening an entire industry to identifying the largest insider purchases, to discovering repeated buying by sophisticated institutional investors, and finally confirming long-term accumulation patterns through historical transaction analysis. That's the workflow Emporion X was designed to provide. Whether you're searching for emerging opportunities or conducting deeper due diligence, Emporion X helps transform thousands of SEC insider filings into organized, actionable research. If you'd like to explore insider trading activity like this yourself, simply create a free account or sign in using your Google account and start discovering where experienced insiders are putting their capital. Because sometimes, understanding who is buying can be just as important as understanding what they're buying. Emporion X. Discover insider conviction, identify long-term accumulation,